Hi, welcome back. So, I've been asking for some questions and I've been getting a lot of questions lately. And I thought that let's combine them all together in one questions and answer video. So, here it is. Are you ready? And the first question is from LS. I don't know who that is. The question is when you need to change something in your life to maybe resolve a trigger. Interesting. So there is a trigger, something that happens, and the trigger is something that is inside of you. Maybe anger, maybe rage, maybe a feeling of unworthiness, you name it. So in those moments, the trigger is the event that happened, and it triggered something that was already inside of you. Maybe a feeling, maybe an emotion, maybe a thought, maybe a belief, etc. Do you need to change the environment? Maybe. I mean, if they're really treating you like shit, then yes, you need to get rid of maybe a job you don't like, or maybe a partner that is not good for you, or etc. Or maybe you need to change something, maybe put in some new boundaries, like I don't want to be treated that way, for example. But the most important thing is that you look at these triggers as a gift. And they bring something up. So that's amazing, because without a trigger, it would have stayed inside of your body. So then the only thing that you have to do is do the release work and see if you can release it. Then another question I got from LS is whether you actually need to dig into why things trigger you in order to fully heal. If a particular situation or person elicits an anxiety response every time, will it eventually heal if you keep feeling into the body and releasing fear or crying soon after the trigger happens? And if you generally keep doing the release work for months, years, doing releases when you feel symptoms? Or do you need to figure out what's the root of all the triggers? So it's sort of the same question. It's amazing when you have a trigger and when you are able to dive into your emotional body and release the stressors. That's a very good thing. Sometimes you would go in mentally and try to understand it, but sometimes this is just a pure physical thing and you don't really need to understand anything. And after you've healed the emotional wound, you're most likely to have a different life in some ways, or to not be triggered by things. So it's mostly an internal thing, but of course, if you have more internal peace, you would like to bring that into the physical world, but that's another topic. And then the next question is from Faith Harbor. The best advice for when you know one of your triggers is a person, but you cannot get away from them because of economics, disability, living situation. Again, the trigger is something that is happening to you via that other person. And what we see is that people with a chronic disease, they tend to go back to their parents to relive the triggers or the trauma that happened to them as a child, so that they can heal it for once and for all. And then after you've healed this completely, life will sort of just happen to you and you'll get out of the situation. Maybe you'll move in other places, maybe you'll have some more money. Just something will happen usually that makes you independent again. And then you can just move away. So it's up to you, sort of, if I would say it like that. How long is this situation going to last? And do you make the most out of your triggers? Then a question from Bartoliman. What role do psychiatric drugs like Benzos and SSRI play in helping or inhibiting a release? Is it best to be off these drugs before starting your program? Thank you for the incredible content. So there are a lot of different drugs. In general, I think you don't need drugs, but most of the people are already on them. And if the drugs sort of suppress emotions, then if your symptoms are related to emotions, then you're going to feel better when the emotions are suppressed in a better way. But you don't need to detox from that completely. By doing the tools from the program, you will have much more tools to actually taper the medication and to do it without it. But go very gentle, because if you would stop cold turkey, then it's probably going to be overwhelming or impossible. So it basically becomes about tapering after you've learned a lot of tools that could help you go through the withdrawal symptoms, the emotions that come up, etc. Then the next question is from Leander Lehman. It sounds funny when I say it in English. In your last video, you talked about boredom and how it serves us. It made me realize how most of the things we want to do require actually a lot of discipline. A video on how to be disciplined in this regard without being again too strict and fixated about it, that could be interesting. And now we're sort of like getting into a paradox. It gets very paradoxical. So healing is about basically just allowing who you are, relaxing, not diving into coping mechanisms, feeling your emotions, allowing your boundaries. Do you really need discipline for that? Because all of the discipline videos are about achieving something. Something to achieve is the opposite of being okay with who you are. So I don't think you would need discipline, but I think that when you're very involved in coping mechanisms such as binge eating, binge watching, anything binge, or pleasing, working very hard, perfectionism, etc., then I think you're doing that because of an emotion. And in those moments, it might be hard to stop. But after a while, you really learn that these types of behavior are really negative and not helping you with your stress levels at all. And that a release could be much simpler, and maybe you only need a few minutes for that. So it's up to you then. Like, what would you do? Would you go on with your stress response, or would you try to have a release? And the final question is from Meral2309. I thought of a potential topic. Do you see a role in healing for devices like the Apollo Neuro or Sensate that are supposed to stimulate the vagus nerve? I'm sorry if it is already being covered. I haven't watched all your videos yet. Well, you should do it. But I haven't made any topics about it. These videos are of these devices. They emit frequencies that are supposed to help you calm down your nervous system, right? That's what it is. But what if you don't want to calm down your nervous system? What if the stress response is there for a valid reason, probably something from the past? And what you need to do is to complete the stress response, to really feel it through, or to be with that what you are resisting. Because after that, it's just gone. So trying to squeeze it back inside your body, if I can say it like that, is really not the way that I'd like to do it. I'd like to get it out, to resolve it, to complete the stress response. And then automatically after that, you will feel much calmer. So there is no need for these devices. But I have one of these devices myself. I bought it when I was struggling with CFS. So I bought the Healy, and it has some amazing programs, not just to calm down the nervous system, but also to release emotions, for example. But the difficult thing about this is that you never really know what program would work best for you in those moments. Plus, it costs you a lot of money. And therefore, I'm not a fan. I prefer to do things simple, without any tools or physical tools. And I prefer to get the stress out of your body instead of squeezing it back inside. So whenever you are anxious, that you calm yourself down by saying, there's nothing wrong, I'm okay. Like, why? There is something wrong and you're not okay. And if you would dive into the reason behind the stress response, it automatically resolves itself. You have a release, and then after the release, symptoms wind down. The stress response stops almost instantly, and you just feel so much better. So it's the approaches out there are basically one of the two. One is about squeezing it back inside, and one is about releasing it. And it's up to you which one you will pick, and up to your body if the method about squeezing things back inside would actually still work, because I think for most people it doesn't work. So thank you very much. Please like and subscribe, and write your own questions in the comments so I can make another Q&A video soon. And I wish you a beautiful day. Bye.